Welcome to the B2B CMO podcast, a show for marketing executives who are redefining what it means to be a strategic leader. I'm John Miller.
And I'm Sydney Sloan. Between us, we've led marketing orgs at companies like Marketo, which John founded, Demandbase, G2, and SalesLoft. For more marketing leadership resources, you can visit b2bcmoproject.com. And now, let's get into the show.
Hello and welcome everyone to today's episode of the B2B CMO Project podcast. I'm John Miller, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Sydney Sloan.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Today, our special guest is Amy Cook, who is the co-founder and the CMO of Fullcast. I'll let her briefly tell you what that is. As someone who's been a co-founder and CMO before, that is near and dear to my heart. She's also worked as a CMO at companies like Simplus, PathologyWatch, and nClouds. But what I think is kind of most interesting about her background is that she has a PhD in communication and that she uses that PhD to teach at various number of universities. So Amy, welcome so much. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been really excited about this, and I love what you and Sydney are doing with the B2B CMO organization. And it's an honor to be here.
We really do feel like there was a gap in the market and a need for CMOs to, especially CMOs at larger companies, to network and find support and resources to help each other. You are one of the B2B CMO Project 100 honorees. So congratulations for that.
Thank you so much. That was such a surprise, and I was so thrilled, and it was quite an honor. So thank you very much.
And you're in great company with 99 other truly stellar CMOs. So let's kick things off as we usually do, just about getting to know you a little bit. We always like to sort of say, like in the superhero movies, like, what's your origin story? How did you get from the beginning to being the co-founder and also CMO of an enterprise company?
Well, thank you so much. It depends on where we start is the origin story. Very early on, I grew up in an entertainment family, and people who are about 50 and older may know the Osmonds and Donnie and Marie Osmond. I grew up performing on stage. I did 12 shows a week. And so it was a lot of fun.
So wait, sorry, were you part of the Osmonds?
Yeah.
Her maiden name is Osmond.
That's fascinating.
So my daughter goes to the University of Utah. She's an intern for us. And I told her we were on, and I'm like, you know, the Osmonds, and she's like in her 20s. And so I introduced you to Donnie and Marie yesterday. Anyway, so I'm so glad you answered that because I had no idea and I was curious. So yes, that is so cool.
Thank you.
Wow.
You know, when you're a kid and you're like living in the shadow of, people who seem larger than life, sometimes you're like, well, what's my identity, right? So I kind of went through that a little early. And as I've gotten older, I've realized like what an incredible opportunity it was for me to understand brand and PR and events and entertainment. I grew up with it my whole entire life. And then as I got into marketing, I started realizing that there were some things that seemed like very obvious to me that weren't obvious to other people. And I realized it was because of the way that I was raised. It also gave me a couple of really strong mantras to live by. The first one was the show must go on, right? So when you've got an event, there's nothing you can do. That was lived very, very literally with my family. I remember one time my Uncle Jay got his nose broken by my Uncle Alan in a karate sequence on stage. Jay got off, bandaged his nose, and went right back on 5 minutes later. And so that ethic is important to me. The show must go on was the first one. And the second one was you're only as good as your last show. So that also is very relevant to B2B marketers right now. And, especially as everything is changing, it's a really important thing for me to live by. So basically, to continue that story, I decided to go to college instead of continue on in the family business. And I started doing whatever I could. I had some marketing jobs at first, and then I stayed home and raised children for a few years. And my husband got a job with Lehman Brothers 1 month before they went bankrupt. So all of a sudden, we had four little kids at the time, and Jeff was like, "Oh no!" And we were in California, and it was very expensive, and kids got to eat, right? And so I was like, "All right, well, what? Obviously, I've got to go back to work." One day, Jeff came to me and he was like, "Amy, I've got a $10,000 tax return. Let's split it and see who can make the most money." And I was like, "Okay, can I start a business with it?" He's like, "Do whatever you want with it. I'm going to put mine in real estate." And so I took that $5,000 seed money and I started just trying to go out and get jobs. And so I reached out to my friends who own businesses and I was like, "Can I write for you?" Because I had, as John mentioned, a PhD in communication and was an academic writer earlier in my career. And so I started writing and they were like, "Oh, well, you can write, but can you design? Can you do websites?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, no problem." Of course I couldn't do them. So I'm like, "Okay, who can I get on my team?" So the business developed very organically. And after about, 5 or 6 years, it was a legitimate business. And then I started doing some fractional CMO work. And what the first one was a company called Simplus. Ryan Westwood, I was his vendor, and we were doing some like ghostwriting together for some Forbes articles. And he mentioned that he needed a head of marketing. And I was like, "Oh, please, please choose me." Because I needed, even though I was running an agency, I didn't know very much about like how to really do marketing from within a company, how to work with other departments, and there was a lot I needed to learn. And so I was super grateful for that opportunity that he gave me. So we took that from 2017 Series A to 2020 when it was acquired by Infosys. I stayed on with Infosys for a couple of years to and led the Salesforce marketing practice over there. I decided to do it again with a company called PathologyWatch. It was a digital health tech group, and so we took that through acquisition and did it one more time with a company called Onboard, and that was acquired by Conservice. And then I sold my agency. And Ryan, my old boss, vendor, friend, called me up one day and said, "Hey, I want to do this again. Let's do something cool again. And will you come on and be my co-founder?" And I was like completely honored. I was very happy that after working with me for that many years, he still wanted to work with me. And so we decided to start Fullcast. And this time with Fullcast, we decided to, Simplus was a services company, a sales partnership, Salesforce partnership, and Fullcast is all about the technology for sales. So we do annual planning technology, forecasting technology, and commissions technology all on one platform.
And it seems like you've had really good growth since you started the company.
We have, yes. Thank you for asking. So, in the past 24 months, we've grown 900%, and we're really thrilled about that. And we're looking to, right now, as everyone is, we're doing a lot with AI. We're replatforming some of our SaaS product on AI and just trying to adapt to the
Yeah,
market.
well, we're definitely going to get into that. One last kind of setup question: like, what do you study when you get a PhD in communications? Like, what do you learn?
It's a great question. So for me, you can go a lot of different directions, but for me, I chose organizational rhetoric. So my dissertation was actually on a polygamous cult in Utah. And it was my thesis question was, how did the rhetoric of this organization convince people to act against their own self-interest? And so that was kind of the basis of that. Organizational rhetoric, I took more of a classical approach. I did a lot of Aristotelian rhetoric, and it combines it combines some psychology research and some organizational behavior, some communication, some English, some philosophy. And so that was a really fun liberal degree and lots to talk about.
So it's I have two thoughts. First of all, on your last story, it was like, okay, your third mantra then is fake it until you make it. I just had to add that one for you.
I love that one.
And take that one too.
I love that. You're
I
absolutely
think
right.
we all do that.
Well,
Right.
we do. And you know what's funny is I was watching this video from Richard Branson, and he said, his number one piece of advice for business owners is always say yes. Always say yes, and then figure it out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And then figure it out.
Uh-huh.
That's so good. And then the other thing is just a very interesting analogy. So our last podcast was Wendy White from Daxco,
Mhm.
and her original job was a propaganda strategist for the Army. But when you think about the psychological, and even Brian Law, we talked about that too. It's just so interesting, the what you see, the similarity line and kind of the backgrounds of some of these super successful CMOs is really like understanding people, right? Like
That
really
is such
getting into the, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like, my degree, organizational rhetoric, fundamentally is how do organizations persuade? There could not be a better marketing
Yeah.
degree. But what's ironic is I never took a marketing class. I wasn't in the business.
Mm.
I didn't come in through the business program. I came in through the communications program. And so I have kind of a different bent on marketing than some others do that come in through business. And so that's a
Right.
really great point, Sydney.
Actually, and I think it's a really interesting, point about how marketing is changing even, because I
Mhm.
obviously took a very different route into marketing. I studied physics for my undergraduate degree. And I would say, I think a lot of the last 20 years of marketing, bringing math and analytics to the table mattered, right? As we sort of
Yeah,
tune
absolutely.
funnels and optimize journeys and all that. But that's become, I think, less and less part of what modern marketing is. And especially as AI is changing things, I think understanding people and behaviors and psychology matters more than ever. So it's not surprising that these strategic
Yeah.
CMOs that we're bringing to the table have that background.
That's so interesting you mentioned that. So, John, with your physics background, I'm imagining you leaned a lot more into the analytics piece of it and in the math. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think that was useful in the old playbook, and it's not quite as useful today.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Matthew Prince actually came out. He's this CEO of Cloudflare. He came out with a really interesting article yesterday about why he is letting go 20% of his team. And he categorized people into either builders, sellers, or it was like managers, helpers, right? And he measurers, that was the word he used, measurers. And he said that most of the people that he cut were measurers because, and he mentioned marketing analytics as one piece of it. He's like, AI should be able to do all of this. And so when we think about how marketing is changing, it doesn't mean we're getting rid of our marketing analytics people. What it does mean is that we will probably need to augment what they're doing with AI, and we can do that. And so I think what's going to be prized in marketing moving forward is that storytelling, is the creativity piece of it that AI cannot reproduce.
Yeah. And when we were looking, so one of the missions behind the B2B CMO project is how do we remain strategic?
Mm-hmm.
How do we keep our seat at the table and influence on the strategy, especially in these larger companies? And our research found that, there was a lot of relationship building
Mm-hmm.
with the C, and how do you make sure that you're a trusted peer?
Mm-hmm.
And talked a lot about the ability to build brand and the role AI plays. And so as you think about, and you work with CMOs all the time, like what do you think makes a CMO a strategic CMO?
I really love this question. And I want to ask you also, Sydney, like, how did you come up through marketing? Did you go through the business angle or did you go through a comms angle or how did you do that?
So it's thank you for asking, Amy. So I went to business school and I went to the entrepreneur program, and my plan was to run an events company. So I got a top 10 plan at USC for Evention, which was an event planning company,
Uh-huh.
and I'd been interning, and so I came through the events angle.
Interesting.
And I ended up working for Special Events Magazine and some event planners in LA, and then I ended up taking an events job in a tech company. And I think what made the pivot was my curiosity for the customer. And so I didn't just plan events. I would go to trade shows, and when we were doing user conferences, I'd prep everybody. And so I really ended up getting to know the customer. And so when we'd have meetings,
Mhm.
somebody else at the table would say something and I'd be like, no, I talked to this customer or this customer. And so they put me in product marketing. So my career was more in
Yeah.
the product side before becoming a CMO. So yeah.
That's so interesting. And that's like speaks exactly to the question you just asked me, how do we be strategic, right? So my like my basic answer is you get as close to revenue as you possibly can, right? And so like if that is, asking for more customer work, right? If that's asking for um the entire pipeline number to report on in your executive meetings, if that is taking on partnerships as well and alliances and tucking it into the CMO, um, you know, I think that it really just depends on each organization and how it's structured. But I would say like for us, we have the opportunity right now as marketers to be the most flexible, the most technical, and the most strategic in the C-suite, in my opinion. Everything is changing, and we are so adaptable, generally speaking, as CMOs, because we've had to be, right? In the last 10 years, B2B CMOs have had to take on portions of IT, portions of analytics. We have to know the math, we have to know the science, we have to know the art. And so for us to be able to, like, I really believe that this is our time as marketers to become like the most valued and most trusted person on the C-suite. And that's because we are so flexible. So if we can show that, we also have what's ironic to me is even though we're experts at brand, CMOs kind of have a perception problem in some ways, right? A lot of people say, oh, marketers, everybody gets rid of marketing first, right? Oh, they're on kind of on the outside. They're not really central to revenue. And so I think that our goal should be showcasing ourselves as well as our brand because we have to for the company to do really well, they need to know what we can do and they need to be able to access all of the value that we can offer.
Yeah, there are two things that I loved what you said in there. One was building in the alliance ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been something that I'm a big believer of. And there was a movement at one time that we would call ourselves chief market officers and not marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I loved about that is, yes, we can be the expert in the market.
Mm-hmm.
We can influence and own the ecosystem, which is our partner network,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to tell a stronger story through and with our partners
Mm-hmm.
and weave them in and create unique differentiation even through that. So I think that is definitely a strategic approach
Yeah.
in, how to take on more responsibility. And then I 100% agree with, owning pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And whether, sourced, influence, marketing, inbound, outbound, whatever, just own and report on that and care deeply.
Yeah.
That is what you wake up every day thinking about. And I think I agree with you. That will definitely move you into a more strategic position in partnership with the CRO. But you also touched on like technical. And so I want to like poke at the AI, our ability to be early adopters and showcasing our technical strength. And so when you think about AI specifically, and the shift in buyers and this whole notion of the answer engine, like how are you positioning the AI voice as a proxy for brand and influence now that buyers have completely shifted in the way that they choose to engage
Mm-hmm.
with companies?
That's a really great question. So, if you look at the research, the most recent research, a lot of the most cited are LinkedIn, but it's the individual profiles, not the company brands that they're lifting for this. So that's why I think also that CMOs have like an obligation to the companies to become thought leaders themselves because of that, and to help the C-suite do that because that's one of the best ways we can get the answer engine up, to cite our brand is through our individual LinkedIn profiles. YouTube is another one that is cited so much, and also Reddit. And I have to be honest, I have not done a lot with Reddit. And so guess who's got a new ad campaign going on Reddit right now? Because we have to, right? We have to be in the areas that AEO is citing. And I will say also, we acquired Copy.ai in October, and that was an awesome opportunity for us. even though our core value proposition is plan to pay, on the sales technology side, being able to access Copy AI's advanced workflows has been fundamentally life-changing for us and has enabled us to build the AI technology really quickly. We also just produced an AEO module through Copy AI that allows us to build content specifically for answer engines. And so I've been using that in-house as I've been co-developing it with our developer and then testing it on our own platform. And since we started using Copy AI, we were able to increase our productivity 10x while eliminating about 300K in salary, and we've shot up in our AEO visibility. So being able to understand strategically like how to do that, how to track for it. It's like the early days of SEO where you can make like you can have changing algorithms daily, and you can actually adapt to those algorithms daily and see immediate results. So I think that's a long answer for make sure you have the right technology, make sure you've got the right brand, make sure that you've got your plan in place, but the fundamentals are going to be the same. I mean, a markdown is fundamentally the same as an outline, right? That you learned how to do in high school. And so being able to translate that from our SEO language to our AEO language is fundamentally the same. If you look at like Google just came out with their AEO optimization guideline about 5 days ago, and I read through it, and it's going to be such a want for you guys because it's very much the same. It's like write well, develop a good brand, make sure you organize your answers, and then they did things like write short sentences, do lots of bullet points, so
Yeah, that doesn't sound very good.
there's nothing,
I talk on this topic a lot. Yeah.
there's nothing like, oh my gosh, you should make sure that your schema markup is like in this certain place or contextual. It's right well.
So I can say though that so I'll just do a plug for one of our sponsors because Webflow built a really great tool to do that. So if anybody that's listening, it's webflow.com/solutions/AEO. And I recommend that to everybody. Like go have it, look at your website, and it will give you like step-by-step instructions in order to how to optimize that. So apparently better. You can compare it to the Google one, and I think you'll find it much more useful.
And I actually am talking to Dave right now about syncing up his AEO to product to what we're doing on the content creation side.
Exactly.
So it's pretty exciting times, and I totally agree with that. Like having those tools to be able to access what Google is doing and be able to make it actionable is super fundamental.
Yeah. And Amy, just since you're also the co-founder, if your team hasn't yet, I would also recommend they look at the knowledge base, and maybe Copy AI can do that too. And like, how do you take the knowledge base and write it in natural language and FAQ style formats and open that up too? Because that's usually a huge unlock for AEO.
So we actually built that into the technology to be able to answer that. Yeah. Great points.
Awesome. Sorry, we went down a tactical rabbit hole. John, I'll let you pull us back up.
Great. I'm going to give Dave a call right after this and be like, okay.
AEO is tactical, but also strategic. But to bring it back to the strategic at the highest level, I think a topic that we've touched on slightly, but every CMO cares about is measurement and metrics. I think the metrics that we've used in the past have, like MQLs, have actually I think come to harm us. That was one of the things that came out of the research that we did. And with your focus on RevOps, you think a lot about, metrics and what the CRO and the COO need and all that kind of thing. So how are you evolving your marketing metrics, to speak to the rest of the C-suite, to be more strategic, to adjust to the new age of AI, et cetera?
Well, it's a really great question because we have, when you're reporting your metrics in your executive meeting, there are a few fundamentals that they want to see, right? And there was a movement to have a couple of the executives were like, why are you not reporting on the MQLs, Amy? And I said, because it's pipeline that matters, not the MQLs. I'm happy to do marketing sourced pipeline. I'm happy to do marketing influence pipeline, but I don't want you, and I said this obviously like in a different way, but I don't want people telling me that I'm doing funny math because I have to change the definition of an MQL as I'm adjusting what's coming in and what's coming out, right? The pipeline number is steady, the definitions are steady, it's something everyone can get behind. And so I really lean in a lot on pipeline.
But you are still splitting out for marketing source, marketing influenced, and not, because that itself can be subjective at times and sliding. So how are you dealing with that complexity?
Right now, we lean in the most heavily on the marketing source pipeline. And on the influence pipeline, I just make sure that I know exactly, like I take a very, probably more than average deep dive into my metrics every week and make sure I know exactly which deals are comprising my pipeline. And so if somebody ever questions me on the influenced, I can say, well, that's because we did this campaign here. And that's because, so, and we use Salesforce, and we make really good use of the Salesforce campaigns. So we can be able to track the influence directly in Salesforce. And so everyone is, because we have a very communicative team, they can, I also like opened the kimono basically and said, guys, come in and evaluate all my metrics. I want you to look at everything. Look at every lead. Look at everything that came in inbound, whether it's an ICP or not. I want you to be able to just like open it up and see what I have. And that really developed a lot of trust, especially with our CRO and other members of the go-to-market team, because they can see that, we're all one engine. And I think that doing that gave us the opportunity to really build our engine together. So right now, like Pete Shelton's our CRO, and I have so much respect for him. He is amazing. He was the head of sales at Domo and a leader in Adobe and stuff. And so what we've been doing is basically building this engine together. And he's in there, checking on the way that my inbound flow is on the website and suggesting edits, and I'm in there asking if his AEs have any event ROI for me, and it's really great when you have that trust. And I think that being vulnerable like that and saying, look at all of my metrics, look at how I've sourced my metrics, and feel free to make suggestions, was really actually what started it.
Pipeline is a key metric, as you say, get as close to revenue as possible. What are your other top metrics? A pet topic of mine is, how are, things that are harder to measure, like brand, AI influence, things like that. What are you doing around, what are your other metrics?
Yeah, so we use SEMrush to help with the AEO visibility metrics. I know there are lots of great companies. Like I was messing around with Gauge the other day, and there are just several others that can show that AI visibility on dashboards. So I think that's an important one. We also track our on-page SEO, make sure that we're optimized for health there. We track. Right now, I don't have anything purchased for like share of voice, but that's next on my list to buy. Something that I used to have some technology for that, but since we're still a startup, I got to develop this little by little, go with the core tech. But I would say share of voice is really important. I would say that, I've started focusing on the leads, on the SEO, on the AEO visibility. Other things that I track are, I actually have, I look at every single lead that came in. I look at ICP fit. I track percentage of ICP in pipeline. I track percentage of ICP in my leads. So I use as many of the sales metrics as I can. And adopt them as my own.
So we like to end with some fun questions. And I know John has a curiosity on your grandchildren, so you might want to answer that. But what do you do for fun outside of work? Like, what's your 5 to 9?
Oh, you know what? I love playing the violin, and was
Oh,
it was my first gig. I played the violin in the shows growing up.
okay.
I've been trained classically since I was 3. And so I played forever.
Mm,
I'm not great anymore, but I love doing that. So I do that for fun. I'll do some studio work sometimes, which is really fun. And then
mm.
honestly, I just like try to spend as much time with my kids as I can. They're all growing up and several of them are out of school now. So
Didn't I see? I think you just announced your daughter's going to BYU, right?
yeah,
Did I, did
yes, yeah, you're
I
saying
see that?
she's
Okay.
my
Yeah.
fourth.
Yeah.
So
Congrats.
thank you. I've got 2 out of school. I've got one that's going to Peru for a year and a half. I've got one
Oh,
that's
fun.
graduating going to BYU, and then I have one in high school still. So I'm pretty kind of boring. I don't
Yeah,
have
that 5 to 9 is a little bit, well, let's just call that 5 to 9 momming, which
yeah,
is,
yeah, that's
your
great.
other job.
My other job is the momming, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. And then John, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm a grandma now too, and it's so much fun.
Oh
And
my
what
goodness.
everything they say about being a grandparent is true. It's like it's so much fun because you don't have to do any of the heavy lifting. You don't have to ever discipline it. And like my grandkid is a baby. Of course I wouldn't yet, but I never will ever again. And it's the best. All I can do is just say, "Oh, I love you. Do you want snacks? Let's not tell your parents." And then that's it.
And your LinkedIn headline says that your name is
That is great.
Glamma.
That's right. I'm trying to train everyone that I'm glamma. I'm not grandma. And so I was telling my daughter the other day that that was my name because she was asking me, she's like, "Have you chosen your grandma name yet?" And I said, "Yes, it's Glamma." And she goes, no, it's not." She's like, "It's going to be whatever the kid tells you it's going to be." So I'm like, "Yes,
It might be hard for them to say. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it might be."
With your power of communication and influence, I think that you're going to start a trend with that one.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate the
Yeah.
opportunity to be here today and to be able to chat with you guys. I've never been on a podcast before with other CMOs where I want to ask you guys a bunch of questions because I just want to ask you the questions and see what I should do differently. Like, it's really, really awesome what you've done here with the podcast and with the
Well,
organization.
thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And we also then end on gratitude. So look at you're leaning into it already and allowing you to give shout outs to a couple people that helped you get to where you are. We know we don't do this alone. So who would you like to give
Oh,
gratitude
well,
to?
thank you so much. There are so many. I may be blanking. I will be blanking on some of them, but a few people that come to mind immediately are the team that have stayed with me for over 10 years.
Mm.
To like they were part of the agency and then they've come with me and two in particular, three in particular, I'll shout out. The first one is Megan Ross. The second is Janelle Wright. Megan is my marketing ops person. Janelle is my content person. And Eric Ramirez is our web developer. Emily Wall does operations. I'm super grateful. I've worked with all of those guys for over 10 years, which is amazing. And then I would say I'm really grateful to my co-founder Ryan for giving me a shot and giving me the opportunity all those years ago to do my first CMO gig. Like, what an awesome opportunity it was for me to be able to do that. So he also made my life really flexible. And he said, when I was ready to take the job, because I have so many children, I was like, you know what? I will work my guts out for you. I will do anything you ask. I will like do more than full time. I just need the hours from 3 to 7 off every day. And he was like, no problem. Just get your job done and who cares? And so
Yeah.
that was really impactful for me. I'm super grateful for that. And I'm grateful
Mm.
for all of the other CMOs who have taught me so much over the years. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm very excited about this, what you're doing with the project, and for the opportunity to learn. I think things are changing so quickly. We all need to kind of link arms and figure it out together. And I'm really thankful to be part of that community.
Well, Amy, the show must go on, Cook. Thank you so much for being here. The highlights that I took away from our conversation is really as a strategic CMO, owning pipeline is an important part of how you remain strategic. the way that you talked about being vulnerable to build relationships and opening up the kimono and welcoming feedback, so you're in partnership together with your peers, and then you're clearly metrics driven, and these are a lot of the things that we see in what strategic CMOs do, and you amplify it very well. I just want to say to everybody who's listening, I hope you learned something today from us. If you like what you learned, please follow the B2B CMO Project.com and listen to our podcasts, our primary research. If you are a at-scale CMO, you can join our community. And again, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thanks for listening to the B2B CMO podcast. Head on over to b2bcmoproject.com for more episodes, plus the latest research and frameworks CMOs need, not just to survive, but actually thrive as AI and the new playbook reshape how we go to market. And if this episode sparks something for you, please follow the show, leave a rating, and share it with a marketing leader who could use a little inspiration. Special thanks to our wonderful partners, OneMind, 2X, Check, Demandbase, G2, Goldcast, LinkedIn, Fave, Sendoso, and Webflow for making this podcast possible. Until next time, be safe out there.